You've been, like, you are Dutch Irish. You've been to Holland and Amsterdam. What do you think about the Amsterdam model in terms of drug policies? I remember watching a documentary about how these cops were talking about, well, why don't we just legalize everything, including heroin? But they kind of, just stop short of that. But they do distribute clean needles, so the addicts don't have to get AIDS and other kinds of diseases and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. What do you think about Amsterdam, the way they deal with drugs, after you've been there?
Well, I've always said it since I went there. I mean, Amsterdam really truly was, out of the various cities that I went to in Europe, it was really my favorite for other reasons, which I need to go into. But
the red light district.
The red light district. Well, that's a great thing too. But surprisingly, I didn't indulge in that though, which I actually am regretful about. Full disclosure here. If I could change one thing about my Amsterdam trip. But no, I think Amsterdam, just for its culture, it's the way it's designed, just it's the Venice of Northern Europe. It's a gorgeous city. I love it. But on that specific question, though, it hasn't had any bearing at all. In fact, from the Dutch people's perspective, and I was lucky enough that I wasn't just there as a tourist, your typical tourist, I'll say, because I had family there and I was able to be there for an extended period of time and then meet a lot of not necessarily maybe even natives of Amsterdam, but native Dutch people. Some of them were native Amsterdammers. And really, when you legalize it, or decriminalize it rather, they haven't even actually technically legalized it, but it's a passing fad. Really, like most of them, they kind of laugh at Americans and all the other tourists who go there for that particular reason, because for them it's just something that you do when you're like a high school or something like that, and then you just kind of get over it for the most part, and then just laugh at everybody else. But if you choose to continue to do that, then it's right there. It's available. You know what you're getting. You're getting a good product. It's legislated. It's taxed by the government, so the government's actually making money off of it, which is, I think, the best thing to do. In fact, they're talking about that in California now. Our budget crisis is so bad that there's serious talk about just for the tax revenue to legalize it out there. And it's had no effect on violent crime. I quite honestly don't know the statistics on like corruption and stuff like that, any kind of peripheral kind of crime that comes from drugs, but I really highly doubt it, at least with cannabis. There's a lot of other drugs that you can get very easily too in certain areas of Amsterdam, cocaine and stuff like that, but even that, to try to buy cocaine in like downtown Oakland versus walking through the red light district, and there's just a guy that's schlepping it out on the street like he was a vendor. I'll tell you which one I would choose, and it would probably be the latter. But what the Dutch have realized is that from a public safety standpoint, be it with drugs, prostitution, needles, stuff like that, if you regulate it, you're making the public safer, and that's what it really comes down to.
Why do you think the U.S. has such severe policies about drugs as opposed to places like Amsterdam? Is there something about our culture, U.S. culture, that induces people, legislators? Because on the one hand, you have this huge so-called drug epidemic. On the other hand, you have this great, almost repressive attitude towards drugs. Is this something to do, you think, with the American, to use a complete cliche in American studies, the American character, the ideology of Puritanism and all that?
I don't know. Yeah, like you said, the cliche, the Puritan spirit, Puritan ethic, or whatever you want to call it, of the Americans. I don't know. I wouldn't say that, because nowadays we're such a multicultural society anymore that to say Puritan, I don't even know if that works anymore. But of course, the ruling class and the lawmakers and the people who have made the laws that still govern us for the most part were waspish. But I don't know what it is about America. The thing that that's what makes the Netherlands so special, is because it is kind of this very unique case because most countries aren't like Holland. They are more like the U.S. in the sense that, okay, drugs should be illegal. But what differs, I think, with the U.S. is how we treat it and how what happens after you're caught or something like that, I guess, is essentially the difference. In most countries, I think you would probably be you'd be sent to treatment or rehab or something like that. Whereas here we throw you in prison and only exacerbates the problem. Mm-hmm. And like I originally said, I mean, it causes much more serious problems than just not, even if you think that you need to cure somebody of addiction, you're turning, a lot of these people into criminals by putting them into that element of society where they're coming into contact with, people who actually are like serious violent criminals. And that's the essential difference, I think. I mean, you'll find probably worse examples in the U.S. and various parts of Asia, Russia, and stuff like that, where they are treated more harshly. But as far as the industrialized Western nations, I think we're very old-fashioned and draconian in the way that we treat it. So, but to get to the original question, I honestly don't know what caused us to treat it that way. I don't know.
Do you think, a lot of artists in the United States, like Willis Burroughs or Ginsberg the Beats, have been really affected by drugs in the way they write? Do you think culture, especially art, writing, music, do they have an impact in changing policies, changing social structures or attitude towards drugs, towards the prison system?
Yeah, absolutely. I think drugs, in a lot of ways, especially for writers, artists, and stuff like that, it's absolutely essential. I'm not going to say you can't make good art when you're not, although I joke about it a lot, when you look at like one of my favorite aspects of American culture, rock music and punk rock and all that. I mean, I've always said, as soon as bands like clean up, which is fine. I mean, if you keep going that way, I mean, you'll probably, end up dead at some point. But I mean, the music, the quality of the music, the attitude, the edginess. I mean, everything that makes all that music so great. The different perspective and the rawness of it. A lot of it does derive from the use of drugs and stuff like that. I mean, it opens up a whole new world for you, and then you, in an almost like physical way, you hear music differently, you make music differently, you write differently, you see the world differently, and as of course, what's his name? Huxley. Yeah.
Aldous Huxley. Doors of Perception.
Yeah, Doors of Perception. I mean, that's what it opens up.
So you agree with Bill Hicks that those Just Say No rock and roll really sucks, like right up there with Dan Quayle.
I want my rock and roll stars dead. Yeah. I mean, like you said, take all of your CDs, take all your records, and burn them, because that all that great music was made by people under the influence. And I don't know. I can't really, to be honest with you, I don't know if I can think of an example of music that I really like that probably wasn't influenced, at least in part, by some drug, be it legal ones like alcohol or something like that. I mean,
Stripers, the Christian heavy metal rock band.
Stripers, I've
or Michael W. Smith.
I've never had the pleasure. I've heard. Yeah.
Amy Grant.
Amy Grant, yeah.
Christian pop.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Although she's got kind of mainstream, she has gone beyond.
I do, yeah. I remember her being a little more mainstream or something like that, and then yeah, she got really gospel-y and stuff. Yeah, not really my bag, but the good stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much. Yeah.